Hello creatives, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Angela and I'm a graphic designer and an illustrator, and today we're going to be creating, digitally painting some monsters and some ghouls because it is October. As you can see, I have a beautiful theme back here. Let me know if you guys like it. And we're going to be doing that in Procreate today. I know I typically do a lot in Photoshop and in Illustrator, but today we're going to use Procreate and we're going to use some fun brushes in different ways to give a textural difference between your characters. So go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on your notification bell as well so you don't miss any of my uploads. Let's dive in. So we have a very typical A4 artboard here, and this is going to be our basis for our monsters. So I was thinking that maybe we could do like a little hairy monster. I think that'd be really cute. And since it's October, I'm going to choose a nice deep purple for our background. If you guys are not familiar with Procreate, I know I do a lot in Adobe programs, but Procreate is a beautiful digitally painting app for the iPad. And I'm on a 10.2 inch pad with the first gen Apple Pencil. So that is what I'm using. I'm going to go and open up our layers panel. Across different programs and platforms, most of the icons for different dockets and different tools are pretty similar. So the layers panel is always 2 pages. It's the same thing in the Adobe programs. It's either a stack of pages or something similar. Press this plus sign to give myself a few more layers. Now this I'm just going to label background. If you double tap on the layer name, you can rename it from the first selection in the pop-up menu. And I'm just going to do background because it's always good to name your layers at the beginning so that way you don't get lost of where all your stuff is, because when you digitally paint there's going to be a lot of layers and there's going to be a lot of different lighting effects and changes. So you're going to want to name your layers so that way you know where things are, that we're not guessing throughout the whole thing. Alright, layer 2. Let's go ahead and tap on that. That is live. And if you guys are curious what this N over here is, I can't exactly zoom in further, but if you can see it, there's an N right here next to this check mark. By the way, the check mark means the layer is active and visible. So if you press the check mark, it shows and hides the layers, depending if it's unchecked or checked. But this N, if you tap on it, it gives you opacity and all of these adjustments. So these are kind of like your photo adjustments in Photoshop. They're all nested under here. So I'm going to keep this back to normal. You can choose whichever one. They give you different effects. And there's little icons over to the right of the name of these adjustments. It kind of lets you know what they do, which is kind of handy, I think. Alright, so I'm going to keep it at normal. Let's go into the brushes. Procreate has so many nice brushes. You can create your own. You can download some from others who create Procreate brushes for them, like professionally. In this brush library, which is right up here, you can tap on it. There's so many different textures. There's so many different categories. There's a lot of choices in here. I'm going to do a very basic, solid airbrush brush first because we want a kind of like I'm thinking like a cute, soft, fluffy type of monster. Nothing too scary, but we might make him a little bit scary with, you know, the facial features and stuff. But I want to do a airbrush tool, and there's lots of different choices under airbrush depending on how the brush reacts and responds. So I think I'm going to do a medium blend. In this brush, you can go into the brush itself by tapping on it. You can mess with all of the properties in this brush. So there's lots of different properties in here. There's a wet mix, color dynamics, where it changes the color effects when it's overlaid on different things. And you also have like shape, grain, and rendering. We don't really mess with rendering too much here, but shape specifically, I want to give it more of, let's see, let's do tilt roundness, increase that, pressure roundness. I'm going to decrease that so it makes it less round, less pronounced, so that way we get a really nice soft monster. So I'm going to press done. And then we're going to choose a different color. In the color panel, which is right up here where the colors icon is, this is really quite cool. Now, in many programs, especially in the Adobe programs, you do have a color wheel. Here, you have a whole selection between your color wheel, and this is the lightness, darkness, saturation, and then this is all the colors around the wheel. You have a classic view, which gives you the sliders, and then you have harmonies. Now, harmonies are colors that can come together into a color grouping. So you can have split complementary, which means that colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, like you see here, purple and green. There's also analogous, which are colors that are like right next to each other on the colors on the color wheel, which are right here. And then you also have complementary colors, which again are opposites. Triadic, which it splits the complementary colors across the color wheel. And then you also have tetradic, where it splits it 4 ways, because triadic is 3 and tetradic is 4. It's hard to say. So you can have lots of different colors here. I think I'm going to go to triadic. Choose this like bluey green color. Make a new palette. If you tap on the palettes over here, you can create a new palette. Name this monster. I don't know if we're going to give him a name yet. If we go back into our harmony selection, we have all the colors here. So I'm going to pull my purple. I'm going to pull this teal color. I'm going to pull this orange goldy color, or yellow gold color, because we're going to want to make sure that we have both lights and darks, and we want to make sure that we have a light source, because that's what makes the whole thing come alive, because then you get to do shadows and all that fun stuff. Now, this slider here is how light or dark the colors are, so I'm going to pull it, and I'm going to make the lighter selections here. Now I'm also going to do the tetradic, because I want to have another color in here. Thinking if you pull these little dots in, these little color selectors in, it makes it to where it's mixed more with white, and if you pull them out, it's like saturated and desaturated. So the more you push it in towards the center, the less saturated it is. The more you pull it out towards the edge, the more saturated it is. So we're going to have all of these selections here as well, just in case we want something that's not so saturated. And then I'm going to pull it right on back to full saturation as well. Pull this as dark as we can, so that way we get a nice deep shadow color. Okay, so now that we have our color palette, which is right here, there's going to be a few more like colors here and there that I may pull for like lighting and shading and stuff, that I'm going to pull some colors here and there just in case. We're not really using green, but I might use green for the eyes. So we're going to start with this beautiful teal color, because this beautiful teal color is really speaking to me. Now we still have our medium blend airbrush selected. I'm just going to make an overall shape. The brush is very small, so let's increase the brush. The brush sizing is right over here, and the opacity is right over here as well. So I'm going to bring the brush size up quite a bit. And I'm just going to make an overall shape. I'm going to fill it in right here in the center. Make sure it's nice and soft on the outside. There we go. So here's the start of it. I'm going to choose a different brush to give him hair. When it comes to hair, those are more of like touch-ups, they call them. So if you go in the touch-ups menu right over here, there is options for hair, noise, like skin tones, like skin textures and such like that. So I'm going to do flowing hair. I'm going to increase the brush size again, and then you can take the brush, and I'm just going to make hair. There we go. It's going to make it to where he looks extremely fun and hairy. Okay, so there is our little monster so far. That's our shape of him. We're going to add the lighting and shading a little bit, just so we can kind of get an idea of where the light and the shading is coming from. This is going to have the lighting coming from the top over here. That's going to be on the top right, all the way over here. Now I'm going to switch back to the airbrush tool because I went a little too hard over here. So I'm just going to soften. What just happened? Medium blend, there we go. And I'm just going to soften this up a little bit because I went a little too much there. Okay. And then I'm going to go back and do the touch-ups. Okay, now he's a little bit too far to the left of the artboard, so I'm just going to choose this point selector here, keep it on uniform, and I'm just going to move him over, just so he's a bit more center. There we go. You can always tap a icon to select and deselect. So if you selected something like this point selector, then, or the selection tool, then you can tap it again and it deselects it. So now that we have the base of our monster, let's do some lighting and shading. So let's rename this layer monster base. Again, so we know where we're going. For layer 3, let's tap on that, tap on it again and rename it. I'm going to do monster light. And then layer 4, monster shadow. So let's go to monster light and we're going to do some lighting techniques with the hair. Go back into our color icon here. Now this is why I chose the different saturated and desaturated and like dark tones and light tones from the color wheel before, and I'm going to choose this really light one, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do the shadows as well. But our light source is going to be more like warm sunlight. So I'm going to show you how to layer the colors as we go along. I'm going to make sure that we're on that hair brush as well. Add this as extra light texture over here to the right side. He's looking a little bit more hairy, isn't he? Alright, and then in the opposite corner, and choose our color icon again, and we're going to do the darkest color in that teal color. So this is going to be the darkest tone. I'm going to put this right over here. Oh, we're not on the right layer. Make sure you're on the right layer. We're going to go back to Monster Shadow, which was technically layer 4. And then I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to create a lot of shadow texture work with the hair. Keep in mind there are going to be other shadows that we're doing, so this isn't going to be the only one. We're going to be layering them. We're going to go back to that airbrush tool, make sure it's on medium blend, correct layer, and then I'm just going to soften it over here. We may even need to make this even darker of a color just to give it more depth, and then to lay it over here. You want to make sure that you start with a very light pressure and then go into a deeper pressure as you go along. I typically like to do little circles just to make sure that it blends pretty well. Go back into our flowing hairbrush tool here, and I'm going to take this deep dark color that I selected before, and I'm going to do some kind of dark streaks of fur in here for him. I'm going to soften it up again with that airbrush tool, just right over where the hairs start. Alright, let's go back to our monster light layer, which was technically the third layer, because now we have like a nice little base for where our lighting is coming from. Go back to that lightest teal shade. I'm going to go back into our airbrush tool, the medium blend, and I'm going to go in small circles with light to medium pressure and then just blend all through here. And then we get something that kind of looks like that. Now I want to go in and start to do a little bit of the details, but for the light layer we also need a little bit of that yellow, this kind of like orangey yellow. Take the lightness all the way to the end. I'm going to choose this yellow because it is the tetradic, it's the triadic, so they're all like analogous triadic colors. They're all in analogous colors, so they're going to be right next to each other. I'm going to use this as our light. So this is going to be like our light source, and I want to put the light source kind of, oh, wrong brush, right on top, so it looks like it has like the touch of like the light beaming down. Typically with light, it kind of like flickers off of different hair pieces, so I kind of want to do this sparingly and not too heavy, very light touch. There we go. Let's go back into our airbrush tool, our airbrush brush, and I'm going to bring the opacity down a bit. So it's a little bit lighter. It's all about layering. The more you layer your colors, the more you're going to have like this nice gradated soft effect, or harsh effect if you want to put like two opposing colors right next to each other in like almost like an implied line type of way. By the way, implied lines and real lines are completely different. Everything in here is an implied line with the exception of the hair, because if I zoom in you can see that that's an actual line. All of the shadowing I'm doing are implied lines, which means they are different tonal ranges that are placed right next to each other to make it look like there's a line. So basically it's like the lightest light and the darkest dark right up next to each other, like let's say black and white. So that makes it look like there is a line right down the middle, even though there really isn't if you're doing this in digital painting. So that gives you the illusion of lines that are softer but aren't actually lines because you didn't actually draw like a line, if that makes sense. Okay, so we have our little monster here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this little guy some eyes. So let's just tap on layer 5 and rename it. We're going to do eyes. I'm going to need a lot more layers by the time this is over, so don't worry, we're going to get there. Choose a white by selecting the center, going all the way to bright white. There we go. You can also do classic if you want to make sure it's all the way to white in the top left corner. Also do it by values. By the way, values has hexadecimal code in it, so if you want to be super particular about this, white is like 6Fs. So if you really want a pure white, the hexadecimal code is just 6Fs. And that is all explained in my Photoshop video where I explained hexadecimal code and why it's important. I'll put it up on the screen so you guys can go and check that out if you would like to. For the eyes, we're going to do something that doesn't involve a brush. It actually involves this quick selection menu here. You see this S up here at the top? If you tap on that, you can choose anything from this pop-up menu that appears, and basically it's like quick selection tool in like Photoshop. So I'm going to choose ellipse to make a circle. It's not a perfect circle, but you can press and hold on the screen and it makes it a perfect circle with your opposite finger. So there we go, and I'm just going to drag and drop white into the circle and you make an eyeball. I'm going to choose the selection tool over here and I'm going to move my eyeball into place. Now I want his eyes to be pretty big. And if you guys want to know another trick, all you need to do is do 3-finger swipe down on the screen and you can duplicate that and we can move it over. So there we go. Now we have 2 eyes. They're each individual layers. If you double tap on the layer and you merge it down, you get them on the same layer, and so now we have our eyeballs. Before we even do anything with the color of the eyes, we're gonna do the lighting and shading first. So let's do that. Let's go into our layers panel by tapping on the icon, press the plus sign. I'm going to press the plus sign twice for 2 new layers because what we're going to do is we're going to do lighting and shading on the eyes. So for lighting, rename this layer. Let's start with eyes shadow because eyeshadow is always fun. Now we can go in here into our color panel and choose this dark teal. Now I do want to go back into the harmony section and I'm going to make this even darker by pulling on this light and darkness slider right here and tap it into the palette Let's do a soft blend airbrush tool in our brushes toolbar under airbrushing, soft blend, and it gives you a bit of a different feel. Now there are two ways to do this. The first way is to have it on a separate layer and just build up the shadow like so. Or you are a bit more advanced and you want to just get this done with more quickly, and that way you don't have so many layers, because you do have a limit on layers in Procreate. You can go into the layer that has the eyes, tap it again, like double tap, and choose Alpha Lock. And what Alpha Lock does, no matter how you move your brush, it will never go outside of the shape that's alpha locked. So it's almost like a clipping mask type of effect. It's really, really handy. Then I'm gonna go back into the layer, turn alpha lock off just by tapping it again. So now he kind of looks like he has like spectacles or something. So we're gonna do something similar for the lighting on the eyes. If you're wondering why I decided to have two separate layers for shadow and light, it's because it's going to be for the background, so behind the eyes. So like the shading under the eyes and the light above the eyes, that's what that's going to be for. Most of these techniques you can do in Photoshop. The process is slightly different, but you can get a very similar look and feel. So for the lighting on the eyes, I'm going to choose our yellow, our golden yellow that we chose before. Make sure we're on that same brush. Soft blend, yep. All right, and then I'm gonna take that up here. Oh wait, I did not alpha lock that, hold on. Back up, back onto our eyes layer, turn alpha lock back on, and then I'm gonna take this light color, this yellow color, slowly increase it to where it looks like there's golden light onto the eyes. There we go, just like that. That's looking quite good. All right, so now let's choose the eye color. Now, I did mention before that I kind of want the eye color to be green. Go back into our layers panel, press the plus sign to make a new layer, and then I'm gonna tap on it, rename it eye color. Choose our next color, which is going to be this, let's see, this green or this green? This green? Let's try this green. Now this is the first time we're going to use a completely different brush, and that completely different brush is going to be under calligraphy. It's going to be monoline brush. You can use lots of different brushes if you choose to. You do not have to use the same ones. To draw a perfect circle, instead of using that selection tool I used before, to draw a perfect circle, you can just draw and then hold, press and hold on the screen. Tap your finger, your opposing finger on the screen and hold, and it creates a perfectly rounded ellipse. So you get a perfect circle that way. I'm going to pull this color right into the closed shape because it is a closed shape. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. You can redraw this if you want to, or choose the selection tool and it automatically chooses whatever's on the layer. And then we can, again, 3 fingers swipe down on the screen at the same time, duplicate it, pull it over to the other eye. Just saves you time. And we have our little monster eyes. Isn't they cute? We can repeat this process for the iris. Now, the iris is typically straight up black color. So if you want a pure black, go into value, and black is literally all zeros, it's hexadecimal code. And then you get a pure black. So I'm going to add that to my color palette. Our brush tool is on monoline under calligraphy. I'm going to draw my circle, hold when I finish this shape, and then hold my other finger on the screen to make a perfect circle. There we go. Drag and drop your color in. Boom, we got an iris. Look at it, he's coming to life. Just like I did before, selection tool, 3 fingers swipe down on the screen, duplicate, and then you can pull it over. By the way, if you guys are not aware, you do not have to tap in the middle of the shape and pull it. You can literally have your Apple Pencil anywhere on the screen to drag it anywhere that you need it to be. They give you lots of free reign and free roam in this program. So tap your selection tool again and it deselects. So now we have some really like, whoa, eyeballs here. So I'm going to increase the size of the color of the eyes. In order to increase and decrease sizing, you want to put 1 finger on the screen and hold, and then use your Apple Pencil to drag a corner from the selection points here. There we go. Press the selection tool again to deselect. There we go. So he's kind of like ogling, like, whoa. All right. Let's give him some teeth, I think. Should we do a tooth? Let's do a tooth. Let's go into our colors. We're going to do a bright white tooth from the white that we chose before. I'm going to go up here to a new layer and I'm going to name it mouth. Just name it mouth. And then I'm going to make a tooth. Calligraphy monoline brush. We have a tooth. All right, I'm going to select the tooth and I'm going to put it in place. Choose that dark teal color that we had before. I'm still on the monoline. And if you guys ever want to know how to create a perfectly straight painted line in Procreate, this is where it's going to happen. Tap and drag. And now it's not a perfect straight line yet, but if you put your finger on the screen and hold, it makes it into a perfectly straight snapped line, which is oh so nice. Now we have his mouth and his little tooth. Now we still have to do the lighting and shading on the tooth. So I'm going to be putting this on the same layer. So I'm going to alpha lock the mouth layer. And I already have this dark teal color selected from before. Let's make sure we're on the right brush. It's going to be the Airbrush Soft Blend. And I'm going to just do a really light pressure on this side of the tooth for the shadow. It's very, very light, very minimal, but it makes a big amount of difference. Choose that light golden color. I'm going to do a nice light airbrush of that over here. So now he has a cute little tooth and some eyes. He's looking really quite cute, but to finish him off, we are going to give him some cute little eyebrows, I think. So I'm gonna make a new layer. Make sure to turn alpha lock off. Always turn alpha lock off if you have it on. That nice dark teal, that deep dark teal again. We're gonna go into our calligraphy monoline brush. And we're just gonna do some cute little, oh, let me increase the brush size. Some cute little eyebrows. There we go. He kind of looks confused. I like that. What do you guys think? It's adorable. All right. I'm gonna move this one down and over. He's like, huh? What's going on? Okay, I'm having too much fun with this. I think that's a really cute little monster. What do you guys think? I think he's adorable. Now for the background, let's go back to the background. We're gonna choose alpha lock on this layer, and we're going to do the light and the dark on the actual artboard itself. So let's go back into our golden light color. Make sure that we have our big medium blend brush, just the medium blend brush. I'm going to make the brush a lot bigger. Go up here to the top right. You gradually add pressure. Whoops, not that much pressure. I'm going to do the same thing down here, but it's going to be a dark color. Now instead of using the dark teal that we've been using, I'm going to use this really dark purple that we have here, but I'm going to make it a bit darker. There we go. And I'm going to use that over here, and I'm going to use it quite a bit because with the shading takes up a lot more surface area than light does, because light usually starts from one point and then spreads out like a cone. So we have the light and we have the shadow. Let me go back to the light color. I'm going to make sure that this light is rounding here. If you guys want to make this into like a poster or like a flyer, like let's say you want to make it like a trick-or-treat flyer, we can do that. Let me select all the layers except for the background. To select multiple layers, you just choose choose one layer, and then you slide each other layer that you want to select to the right, and it highlights in this desaturated dark blue color. And then when you go to select everything with your selection tool over here, it selects everything. So I'm going to make sure this is on uniform, and I'm going to bring him down just a tad. To deselect all the layers, you just select any layer and it deselects all of them. What is this one again? Oh yeah, his eyebrows. I did not name it, so you gotta name your layers. Alrighty, and then I'm going to create a new layer, text. Now you can either write the text yourself, or you can go into this little wrench tool over here next to the word gallery. Under add actions, you can do add text, and it will add a text layer for you. Trick, or I'm gonna move it up. Go back to the wrench, add another text, and go treat, trick or treat. I'm gonna move them down into their spaces just so that we can see them. And then to change the font, all you have to do is double tap into the letters here. Choose this capitalized A and lowercase a, and then you can change your font because they have a lot of fonts already in here. And then to make this even more like spooky, let's go into our colors. Let's choose this teal color, but we're not gonna keep it the teal color. We're gonna have it an opposite color. So let's choose, instead of analogous, let's do split complementary. And there's this orange right here, so let's make it a lighter orange. Okay, let's add some fun stuff on top of this. Now that we have our text, change it to where it's no longer a text by double tapping on the text layer and tap rasterize. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I'm going to alpha lock this. I'm going to choose our black, make sure our brush is on the medium blend airbrush, and then we're going to make it look really creepy. And I'm gonna go all the way down here. There we go. So that makes it stand out a little bit more. You guys let me know. What do you think of our little monster? I think he came out quite adorable. I hope you guys learned how to use different brushes and brush textures, pressures to be able to create your own cute little monsters and flyers if you want. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Go ahead and check me out on all my social channels that are always linked down below. And I also have a vlog channel if you guys want to know what I get up to. I will see you all in the next video. See you soon, creatives.